Okay, we're going to have a look at how we construct the interior pockets of our purse, and that's the interior pockets where we're going to do 2 zippers. So not the frame part, just the part with the 2 zippers. So if you're choosing to go with the 2 zipper version, then you need to watch this. If you're choosing to go with the 1 zipper and a frame, then you need to wait and watch the next one. So I have my 4 lining panels, my 2 exterior panels and 2 prepared zippers. Now the construction for this part is exactly the same regardless of what size Persephone you're doing. So I'm doing the original size here, but it's exactly the same regardless of which size you're doing. So first things first, 2 of my lining panels I've folded over a 1/4 inch hem on one of the long sides. That's on just 2. And I've eyeballed that. I haven't actually done it, I haven't measured it, I've just eyeballed it and pressed it. So let's start with taking one of our exterior pocket panels and one of our zippers, and I'm going to lay my zipper right side down onto my fabric. It doesn't matter which way round, and I'm going to make sure that it's central, so exactly between both sides. Make sure that you're on the shortest side. Now that's more of a unrecognizable when you're doing the regular size, because there's not a lot to tell between the sizes. So make sure you're on the shorter side, not on the long side, otherwise your pockets will be a bit peculiar. So let me just move that down a little bit so you can see. So the zipper has been lined up along the top edge and centrally, so I've got just a little bit on either side. And I'm not a great one for clipping zippers in place. I tend to just move them over to my machine. But with this in this instance, if you do that and you don't if you don't clip it and the zipper creeps, and they do sometimes creep as you're stitching them, you'll find that it's crept off the other side. So actually clipping in place is a good idea. So I'm going to stitch that in place. Can you see? Let me just swivel you around a little bit. I'm just stitching through the zipper tab and along the edge of my zipper. Now, I will say that before I apply my zipper tabs, I always press my zipper. I think they're less likely to creep if you do that. I've come to the zipper head, so I've stopped with my needle in, I've raised my foot and I've moved the zipper head out of the way. Don't try and stitch past the zipper head. If you do, you'll end up with a wonky line of stitching. You can thank me for that later. Okay, so that's my first side of my zipper attached. Now I'm going to get one of my lining pieces. Now I can't remember which one it says in the pattern. I think it says the one without the fold, but it doesn't matter. As long as you've got the 2 pieces with the fold at the same end, it matters not really which one you use on this. So I'm just going to pop that right sides together, so the zipper is effectively the filling in my sandwich, and I'm just going to clip that in place. I'm going to match that top edge, match the sides. So you can see now there's my lining panel, and my zipper is between the 2. And my zipper was right sides down, so the pull was facing downwards, and now I'm just going to have to open that because the pull is at that end now. And I'm now going to stitch all the way across here. This will attach my lining to my exterior and my zipper. And again, when you get to where your zipper pull is, stop. Put your needle into the fabric, raise your foot. You can feel it, I can feel it's down here. So before I get to it, and my foot bumps out because it's bashed onto the zipper pull, stop, needle in, move that zipper pull out of the way. A couple of back stitches to secure my stitching. And I'm just going to fold my lining so that it's behind my exterior panel. I'm going to make sure my zipper is pulled out. In first instance, I'm just going to finger press that, but I am actually going to press it because I think it looks tidier if you press it. Depends what fabric you've got. Some fabrics do tend to finger press quite nicely. This is lovely quilting weight fabric, and even with interfacing on it, it's just better pressed. And I'm pressing on both sides to make sure that my lining is not puckered. When I say not puckered, sometimes when you press just on one side, you get kind of almost like a little fold on this edge, which just makes it really bulky at the top. So it takes 2 seconds to press, worth it in the end for the finished effect. So it's well worth pressing if you can. I've got all sorts of bits and pieces stuck to the back of my wall mat. And then I'm going to top stitch, but I'm not going to top stitch from one end to the other. And I'm sorry, the sun's starting to come around now. I'm going to top stitch from one zipper tab to the other. So not right across, one zipper tab to the other. Now, if you really want to bury your threads here, you can do. I tend to just do one back stitch because I don't think it's necessary to necessarily bury my threads here. And I'm top stitching approximately 1/8 of an inch away from the zipper. Get rid of my threads because I hate them with a passion. And there we go, one beautifully top stitched zipper. So I'm now going to take my second pocket panel, the exterior pocket panel, and I'm going to take this panel that I've just put my zipper on, and I'm just going to move my zipper pull into the middle slightly, and I'm going to lay that zipper right sides together on the top of my second exterior panel. Now what you should have is your exterior panel should line up down the sides, so they'll sit one on top of the other. And again, clip it in place just to make sure it doesn't go creeping. So there we are, we have the sandwich. We have my second piece of lining fabric, my first piece, and my piece of the pocket lining. And I've just effectively put that nice zipper that we've already sewn on one side onto this one. And now I'm going to stitch that in place, in the same way as we did with the last one. When you get to your zipper pull, you know what I'm going to say? Stop with your needling, open that up, and you've got several layers there to open up. Move your zipper pull out of the way, and continue stitching to the other side. Get rid of all your threads. I find it's easier to get rid of my threads as I go. I used to always leave my threads and then cut them all off at the end, but I just end up with so many and I'd always miss one. Take your second lining panel. Now if you've used the one with the fold on the first side, then use the same one on this bit as well. And put your lining panel right sides together over the top of that zipper, lining up the sides, and clip in place. So now we have 2 lining pieces, 1, 2, and 2 exterior pieces. And then we're just going to stitch along the top, except for I'm going to move my zipper pull because it's right at that end now. Just reline that up. Open that up, move my pull, Okay, so now we're going to open that up so that we've got one lining piece on either side and one exterior piece on either side of our zipper. We're going to use the pressing mat and iron, and again I'm just going to finger press along the side of that. I'm just going to close my zipper. Finger press along the side of that pocket. Make sure that your lining is actually properly behind. Now let me just see if I can move it a little bit. Now you can see, if I push it up a bit, you can see that my lining is poking out there at the end of my zipper, and I don't want that. I want my lining to be properly behind so that you can't see it at all from the front. So make sure that you've pushed your lining for your pocket right down. If necessary, go under here and just give it a little tug just to roll that top seam a little bit more, just so that the lining doesn't show on the exterior, because that's not what we want. You should be able to iron over your nylon zippers. The only time that you're ever going to have a real issue with that is if you've got a metal zipper, and believe me, metal zippers get really hot. So if you want 3rd degree burns, press over it and then touch it. You'll know all about it. Again, I'm just going to pull that lining down to make sure that I haven't got any creases on the inside there. And give that a little press. And then I'm going to top stitch down the other side of my zipper, again from zipper tab to zipper tab. So not right the way across. I like to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch. If you don't feel confident doing that, then make your top stitching a little bit, make your seam allowance for that a little bit wider. It's a personal preference thing. I just think it looks nice if it's done close to the zipper. Okay, so now I have my panel with one zipper inserted into the middle. I've got 2 lining pieces, so that's looking good. If you put that sort of up like that, you can kind of see how that's going to be looking fabulous. You can even kind of fold it in half and get an idea of how it's going to be inside of your purse. Now we're going to insert our second zipper, and this is where people get a little bit confused. Excuse me, I just need to have a slug of coffee. It's really easy to get your zippers so that they go in 2 different directions. What you need to do is concentrate at this part. So I've closed my zipper, and my zipper pull is on the right hand side. It doesn't matter which way around it is. If I close it and have my panels that way, then my closed zipper pull is on the left hand side. It makes absolutely no difference. What you need to make sure is that your closed zipper pull on the second zipper is in the same direction, is on the same side as the one you've already inserted. So I'm going to take my second zipper, and this has already been prepared with the zipper ends. I've got my panel on the table. My pull is on the left hand side. I don't know if it shows left on your screen because I think you get back to front. On the left hand side with my zipper closed. Here is my closed second zipper with the pull on the left hand side, and I'm going to place that zipper right sides down, so the zipper pull is underneath on the other short end of my lining. And just double check, make sure that the closed zipper end here and here are on the same side. And then we're going to stitch that zipper in place in exactly the same way as we did with the last one. Removing the zipper pull. We are. Another lining panel. These are the ones without the folds in the bottom. I've got glue on my finger. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to lay it right sides together with that zipper. Make sure that the sides of it line up with your sides of your main panel. And clip it in place. Like I say, this is exactly the same regardless of which size you are doing. The only difference is the measurements. So for maxi, this will be wider. For mini, this will be narrower. And if you don't know what maxi and mini are, then do check out my Etsy shop, and you'll find that once the patterns are released, you will have 3 Persephone versions. Regular, which is what I'm sewing now, maxi, which is a larger version, and mini, which is a smaller version. I think that's probably fairly self-explanatory. So I now have my lining attached across the top. I'm going to fold that to the back. And again, I'm going to finger press, trying to make sure that my lining stays nice and straight, and that the lining panel, so the pink lining panel, the pocket lining, is behind the exterior parts. Okay, then we're going to top stitch again along the side of that zipper, again from one tab to the other, at 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so now I'm going to close my zipper, and it's worth at this point just checking that both of your zippers, so there's my pull, come down here, there's my pull, that both of your zippers are facing the same way. So if you kind of fold that in half, you'll be able to see that both of the zippers are orientated the same way. So that's my long panel, and I have 3 of my pocket linings attached. But I need this zipper to attach to that side. So now I'm going to fold the whole panel in half, and I'm going to line up my zipper with the top edge of the first lining piece. I am actually going to open the zipper so that the zipper head is not in the way. Again, making sure that it's central to avoid the creeping zippers. Now I will admit, if I'm honest, that very often I will actually, rather than stitching this and then coming back and stitching the lining, I will actually pop my lining on now and stitch right the way across. However, creeping zippers happens that way, so it is better to stitch one on at a time. So having made sure it was nicely centrally positioned, this time I've got to go into the sort of the circle to move my zipper head out of the way. I've actually effectively created a large hoop of fabric. So there we are, there's my zipper attached. I'm going to take my last lining panel and I'm going to pop it over the top of that zipper that I've just attached, and I'm going to stitch it in place. There's my zipper pull. Let's just move that out of the way. And there we are. We have our next lining panel on. However, now we've got the problem of how we're going to top stitch. And that's really quite simple. It just takes a bit of thinking about. So I'm going to open up. This is where my my lining panel is that I've just attached. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the zipper that's opposite. I'm going to turn the whole thing over. I'm going to lay my, you can kind of see there's a circle. I've got the two lining panels at the bottom, two lining panels at the top. And I'm going to open up that gap where the zipper is. And I'm going to use that gap to kind of finger press my lining and my exterior. Now, what I usually do is pop my iron into that hole if I can. You might have to do it a bit at both ends just to straighten out that seam. That looks fine to me. Is it okay on the inside? Yeah, that looks okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go through that hole again, and we're going to top stitch through that hole. So I'm going to lift up my presser foot, and I'm going to put the presser foot, let me just move you around slightly.